Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with a really exciting unboxing video on a brand new Spyderco. This one is bulging out of the box already, and that is the Subvert. You'll know that from the title of the video itself. This is a very highly anticipated knife that comes to us by way of custom knife maker Nati Amor. He is an Israeli jeweler that makes beautiful custom knives called the Sabotage. A big and a small version of that. And that's what you're going to find here about Nati Amor and about his history as a maker and the knife itself. So I really appreciate that Spyderco includes this historical information. You can go ahead and pause it and read it if you're interested. But here is the knife. This is based, as I mentioned, on the Black Snow Customs Sabotage. Nati's company is called Black Snow Customs. You can see their logo right there, emblazoned next to the Taichung, Taiwan logo. So yes, indeed, this knife is manufactured in Taiwan. But if you know Spyderco, you know that means that's probably their highest quality manufacturing center. It's the place where they made the Nirvana, the Salish Buoy, etc., etc. It's where they do their highest level titanium work, and that's what you're seeing here. This knife is a big titanium liner lock with big G10 overlays and this very wide and characteristic blade. And it has been very highly anticipated because Nati's knives are some of the most highly sought after and expensive folding knives on the market today. He uses only the most high-end materials with beautiful fit and finish, and so they're very sought after. This is exciting that now we have a production version of the knife. Now, before you go off and get super excited that you can suddenly have one of his knives, understand that the regular Sabotage, and hence the Subvert here, comes in with a 4.1-inch blade. This is an absolutely massive knife. It is 9.3, 9.2 inches of overall length right there. The handle here is going to be coming in at just over 5 inches with an effective grip area at about 4 3/4 inches. So by no means is this a small knife. I'm going to go ahead and bring out another couple of knives for a size comparison. Here is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Here is a Koenig Knives Arius. So both of these knives are full-size knives and have very big handles even with relation to their blades, and they still do not even come close. This is a knife with a very close to 4-inch blade, or about 4 inches of blade, and it is still dwarfed by this Black Snow Sabotage lookalike. Here I'll bring out the Buster as done by Jake Hoback and Snex Tan. So here you're seeing that this giant Buster knife is the same size as the Black Snow Customs version right here, the Subvert, the Spyderco Subvert it's called. So let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically and see exactly what we're working with. Up front is this beautiful blade done in S30V steel. Now, before the collective masses of supposed knife experts out there say, oh, S30V is terrible, no, it isn't. It's great, and Spyderco does it perfectly. I have nothing to complain about. S30V is a high-end cutlery steel designed for cutlery. It is stainless. It is a very quality edge holding and tough steel, so nothing to complain about there at all. And my EDC will never even come close to achieving the hard use that S30V is developed for. In any case, it is done in a full flat grind all the way up to the top, except for this small area of flat right here, and it is quite a useful grind actually. It's a tall flat grind. It came very, very sharp from the factory. Slices really, really nicely. A bit of an awkward shape, if you ask me. I'm not really sure what to call it. It's not really a drop point. It's not really a Tanto. It's not a Warncliffe. It's not a clip point. It's not a Persian. It's just a Sabotage blade shape. And it's very unique in the world of knives. It's almost like a spatula out here in the way that the blade widens towards the end of it right here. It's got a recurve and then a curved belly right here, a very, very significant belly that doesn't have a tip and it doesn't have a flat. And so some people may not be the most happy with this particular blade shape. I would say that it's going to work nicely for a lot of draw cutting tasks, push cutting tasks, but it may not be the best for food prep because of the way that the blade just touches in one point. It's just not angulated quite in the right way. Let me bring out the Spyderco Capara so you can see a little bit more about what I'm talking about. This blade kind of curves downward where a good food prep knife might curve upward like that a bit more. Just me just having some thoughts while I'm showing this knife to you guys. I literally just opened the box this afternoon. This is in no way really a review. This is more of an unboxing and overview video, so just bear with me. Just showing off the details and everything here. I will say that the belt satin grind is very beautifully done. It's nicely angulated. It's got a very uniform look to it. The flats are done in an almost polished horizontal satin. Very, very nicely done. The Taichung factory always has excellent fit and finish on their knives. One of the areas that Taichung is also known for is making some sharp corners. Those are again present here. They have been chamfered a little bit. You can feel that these have been knocked down. You can feel that the Spidey hole has been knocked down a little bit, but I think Taichung has just a little ways to go before they have absolutely perfect sort of ergos in that regard. But what that chamfering does, as you can see in the Spidey hole here, is it allows you to comfortably open the knife with either the Spidey flick or the thumb flick. It's very easy to get purchase on that Spidey hole, and it flows very nicely with the design of the knife. Honestly, I think it looks great with the design of the knife. These are traditionally flippers, and so they have a little flipper tab sticking out here, but I think this works really nicely as a spider hole opener. Very, very elegant, and that it also cleans up the lines. One of the things I enjoy about non-flipper knives is that you don't have the flipper tab protruding out of the back there and messing up the lines of the knife. And so actually I really like that, and it works quite well. A knife with a Spidey hole that can't Spidey flick is a terrible thing to me, but this very easily does it, as you can see. The pivot is running on ball bearings, and it's quite smooth. Straight out of the box, this thing has amazing action. It's going to wear in really nicely. It's very smooth. It drops shut. It sounds very smooth. There's no noise. It's just a low friction system, and it is very, very nice. I can't wait to take this knife apart and see what's going on the inside. I've heard that it is a bit of a complicated thing to take apart and put back together. That may be a good opportunity for a knife surgery video. So we'll see how that goes. The pivot hardware is this nice custom screw right here. Honestly, in the pictures, I wasn't sure if I was going to like the finish, but it is a nice finish. It's a dark gray titanium look. It may even be a titanium screw. Wouldn't that be nice? Otherwise, it's just got that same look as the rest of the titanium frame, and so I'm really happy to see that they matched that. Really, really cool. I appreciate that very much. There is an internal stop pin, and all of that is well hidden. You don't see the detent track. You don't see the stop pin track. It is a clean, clean, clean design. Very nicely done. The detent, I will call it medium. It's certainly not strong. You can, if you get a good running start, really get that blade out just by shaking it. The blade is a bit front heavy, and so it sort of precludes that blade to do that, but the detent is just light enough that you can in fact shake it out. But it's really, you're gonna have to really give it a good hard shake. Like doing this, it's not coming out, and so just understand that it's not the strongest detent, but they did that in order to allow it to be opened easily in all of these directions, and it is very, very nice, that action. The lockup is very solid. I think that it's not super early, but it's not super late. That's coming in almost at 45 to almost 50% straight out of the box. And with what looks like a non-stainless steel insert, there is no stainless steel insert right there. You know, that begs the question about how this might hold up over time. I'm sure it will be perfectly fine. Spyderco knows how to engineer a lockup. I can't imagine that this will be a problem over a lifetime. This is very thick titanium, and there's still a lot of room to go right there. Because there is not a steel lock bar insert, some of these may come with an initial amount of lock stick. please be aware that these knives also ship with a significant amount, a Nick Shabazz amount of pivot lube already inside of this ball bearing system. I took some compressed air and blew it out, and a bunch of lube came out. I cleaned the lock face, I cleaned the blade tang, and then I added a little bit of some pencil lead, and it is absolutely butter right now. There is no lock stick. The action is incredibly smooth, and just be aware of that. Don't be turned off if you get this knife and you feel some lock stick. There may be some knives that have an irreparable amount. It does happen. A titanium on steel interface, some of these production knives will have problems, but mine feels fine, and I recognize that it was a problem because of the amount of lube, so just be aware of that. Moving back to the handles, this is a really intricate part of the knife here. So notice that there are these very thick titanium frames running down the length of the handle here, and they are contoured. They're molded in such a way that you can see them peeking out here and then here. And it's just cool the way that the scale sits on top of the titanium frame. It really looks like a frame lock with some big contoured scales on there. If you took these scales off, this knife would be almost as thick as a normal knife. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get that dimension right here. This thing is coming in at 0.73 inches in overall width. That's extremely, extremely wide. I'm going to bring out some more of these knives. Here's that Olamic swish that we had out here earlier, standard width on this one, just a very thick knife, so understand what you're getting yourself into in that dimension. I should also mention that it is quite heavy. That thickness does bring some weight with those thick titanium frames right there, coming in at 6.19 ounces. 6.19 may be much too heavy for a lot of people. I find that above 6 ounces is almost uncarryable in my scrubs. In jeans, it's not so much of a problem. This is going to take up the entire front pocket in your jeans, and you'll just have to leave it totally dedicated to that. I'm noticing, actually, that the handle tapers out to possibly be even wider back here. Goodness gracious, this is at 0.795 inches all the way at the back there. So it tapers and becomes even more wide as you get to the back of the knife right there. So very interesting overall design. It's extremely comfortable in the hand, though. To have these big G10 scales that are contoured in this way, it really makes it fit in the hand so nicely. The ergonomics are quite comfortable. Really, you're going to have no problem. This is going to fit well in big hands or little hands just because of the size. I can imagine Nick probably thinks it's not the best because it may be big for his hands, but that's okay. The clip is fine. The clip is a traditional Spyderco style spoon clip, but of course they've gone and made it troublesome by giving it its own proprietary screw pattern, and so deep carry clips and other such aftermarket clips are going to be very difficult to come by. Perhaps somebody will start making them with regularity. I should say that the choice of using orange G10 for these scales was a bad idea. I think that this knife is striking with this orange G10. I don't think it looks bad by any means, and I think that a certain subset of the population loves orange G10. But this is a bit like releasing your first car in orange. I feel like you should probably come out in black first, and then make some sprint runs in some certain colors. Bringing it out in this bright orange, I think, is going to turn a lot of people off who might otherwise be interested in the knife. I feel very strongly that this would do spectacularly well with either black G10, micarta, or carbon fiber. I would love to see carbon fiber. And while we're picking and choosing, I would love to see marbled carbon fiber, and that is because this knife costs $305. That's right, $300 for a Spyderco. We do not see that price point very often for Spyderco knives, and generally we see high-end and premium materials. On this knife, I can see that the titanium frames require a lot of effort. There's internal holes to lighten the weight. They're finely finished. They're nicely contoured. There's an inside and an outside contour. Notice that there is a chamfer here on the G10 and then on the frames again. So understand that there's a chamfer there, and then there's an internal chamfer here for releasing the lock bar. So there is quite a bit of work going on these frames. Certainly the nice hardware, The G10 machining, the G10 is not going to be cheap with these big pieces for all these knives. But when you're getting into something that's got an S30V blade, and it's rather simple in its overall construction because it's a titanium liner lock right here, $305, I might expect to see some carbon fiber on here, but maybe we'll see that in a future run. It'll probably cost $385, but we shall see. What are my initial impressions on this knife right now? Really, I am shocked by how good this knife is. I was expecting this knife to not be very good. I didn't think it was going to be quite this smooth. I didn't think it was going to be quite this nice in hand. I thought it was going to be way too big, and it is too big, but it's not way too big because of the way that this knife is put together. The way that it curves into itself really keeps that 4.1 inches somehow compact, even though it's a big knife. The action on this knife feels a lot like a custom knife. I say that in just the way to say that it's these nice thick frames. It's just got this feeling to it that just feels very solid and very well made. This really feels like not a production level knife. It just feels on a very different level. And so in that regard, I do believe that it is worth the $305. It is extremely well made. This definitely does justice to the Sabotage in the sense that it is well made. It would be such a disappointment for Nati Amor's super fine work to be represented by what comes off as a cheap feeling or crappy knife. This feels great. It's extremely well made by the Tai Chung factory. And I think if you pick this up and you're interested in it, you will not be disappointed. I think a lot of people are not going to be able to deal with the huge size of this knife. And so absolutely, Spyderco, if you are listening, please make the mini version of this. I know that Nati wants to make that, and it would be great if you guys did that. A small version in carbon fiber, even at $350 or $380, I think would sell like hotcakes. And so maybe we'll see that in a year or two if they can make that happen. But for now, this is the Sabotage for the common man. Go ahead and check out anybody else's videos and the other websites about this knife. Go and check out Nati's work at Black Snow Customs on Instagram. He makes a beautiful knife. And this is really some next level, grail level custom work. And this is great to finally get to have this in the channel, in the production market so that I can have it on the channel. What I will say is this: if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, perhaps you're one of my few Patreon supporters. I haven't made a video about this yet, but indeed I started a Patreon account a few weeks ago, back in 2018, right there at the end of the year. And I have a few supporters that have been extremely generous. This is the very first knife that was purchased with the Patreon funds. What I intend to do is to continue using those Patreon dollars to modify this knife, to Frunkify this knife, and then go ahead and experience it, make some great content for you guys, and then give it back to one of my patrons. So if you're curious, head over to patreon.com/Dr. Frunkey. You can check out my page over there. You do not have to sign up. All of my content is going to remain free. Some of those guys will get some early access to videos. They will also get reductions in prices when I sell my knives, and some of them will get some special videos. So head over there and check out what's going on that site at my Patreon and see if you want to become a patron. I appreciate everyone who watches my videos. I encourage you to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Go ahead and follow me over on Instagram as Dr. Frunkey. And as always, guys, take care.